Good morning, guys. Uh, it's me. If you've been following along, you know that I just got home last night from my trip out to the Grand Canyon. It was an amazing experience. I'm really looking forward to posting that footage here probably sometime today. I do have some stuff that I need to address first, just in daily life, coming back from being gone for a few days. But I really want to try and make it a goal to get that footage up and out there for you guys because I was not able to go live. Um, this video is going to be a little bit different. Hopefully you guys will get what I'm trying to do by posting this particular video, because as you see, I've been really trying to lean into being positive and putting good intentions out into the world. And by and large, so far, the experiment has been so successful. And part of that, I think, is because I am willing to be transparent and be completely honest with people about where I'm at and what I'm doing, and the intentions and the authenticity of that show through. And I think people, by and large, respond to that. So I wanted to get on here this morning and get a little bit vulnerable with you, and share something that I had written several years ago, and I've only shared it with very, very few people, but it was something that was incredibly impactful for me and helped me to heal during a difficult time in my life. And just like that little bag of my grandmother's ashes, this thing has sat on a shelf collecting dust since then. And I've looked at it from time to time with intentions to do something positive with it, but I never really knew what. So I'd like to share it with you guys. I've mentioned before that I went through a divorce back in 2019, and that was a difficult process for me. I had a tough time healing from that change, and therapy isn't cheap. I'm sure anybody here who has had to go through therapy or counseling can attest to the fact that if you really want to address your problems, sometimes you do need to have money to throw at them to a certain extent. But for me, I've always been able to find therapeutic healing through some of the things that I've thrown myself and my energies into, things like music and things like journaling and writing, things like performing, where I could step out of self. So when I was at a very, very low point, and the world told me that I couldn't go out and have human interaction, or I couldn't go out and perform, or I could get out of my head for a little while, was a really, really rough time for me. And the only thing that I could think of to do to process those feelings, because I couldn't talk to people and I couldn't get hugs, was to write. And so I started writing poetry. And not like the roses are red, violets are blue kind of poetry, just poetry that spoke to the feelings that I was having at the time. And so I'd like to share one of those pieces with you today. And I hope that you like it. I hope for anybody who has gone through a similar situation with a relationship, going south, maybe it'll resonate with you. I know that when I wrote it, it was tremendously helpful for me. So I hope that if you're going through something right now, or you've had to navigate something, maybe it will hit home with you and give you an outside perspective, or cause you to look at things a little bit differently. That's certainly my hope. So I hope that you enjoy this. It is an original poem that I wrote called A Love Letter to a Fountain Pen. Why did we ever get away from using fountain pens? Before you venture an answer to an obviously rhetorical question, hear me out. I can remember as a child watching black and white movies where important documents were authored using the most elegant of fountain pens. Fortunes were made and lost through the simple stroke of a pen. Lives were built and destroyed by a sophisticated scratch upon a piece of paper. I can vividly recall my sense of awe and wonder at the power of such small object could possess. But back then, I thought as a child does, full of the wonder of delicious inconsistencies. How could such a small object bear so much weight when I, who weigh so much more, can mean so little? How can something so small leave a legacy so lasting when I am so much larger, yet my screams fade into silence? And in that absence of sound, that oppressive dark, can I find a voice? Can I be heard over the deafening silence which longs to fold me into her embrace like a welcoming lover? And yet, even then, I still believed as a child does as well. I held firm to the ideals that were imprinted upon me like a maker's mark. You see, I am a beautifully broken mosaic of equal parts positive reinforcement and emotional abuse. Statements like, you can be whatever you want to be, tempered by, you'll never amount to anything. And yet, despite it all, here I stand, still a dichotomy of contradictory self-affirmations and crushing doubts. But I found my freedom with a pen. I remember as an adult when I bought my first real pen. I don't mean the Bic or the Scripto that you might have in your pocket or your purse right now. I mean a real pen. I was 17 years old, and I saved up the leftovers from 3 paychecks, which wasn't much, to afford it. I remember feeling like such a grown-up when I bought that pen. I remember thinking I would use that pen for the rest of my life. I had invested in it, and I planned to see it well maintained. And I used that pen for about 12 years. But when I started really adulting, I put the pen away. I mean, I had a real job, I was traveling, and I didn't want to risk losing my pen. So I placed it in a box and I put it into storage. Better to run the risk of losing a cheap disposable pen. But that's what it comes down to, isn't it? We've become a disposable culture. You ever wonder why more than 50% of marriages end in divorce? If you're married, or even better, divorced, cast your memory back and ask yourself the question, what kind of pen did I use to sign my marriage certificate? While you might think it's an oversimplification, I assure you, you're not the only one. You see, every day, we have the idea reinforced that it is better to buy a new whatever than to fix the one you already have. Don't believe me? When's the last time you fixed a printer or an extension cord? We used to be a society of triers. Now we're a society of buyers. We somehow became so afraid to make a mistake trying to fix things that we collectively decided it was better to just throw them away and start over. Well, I guess I must have been absent the day they held that vote. Sad to say, not too long ago, I became part of the majority in that statistic about marriages ending in divorce. And as I was going through the boxes that amounted to the souvenirs of a life I no longer felt welcomed in, I found my pen. And it was dusty. And it was in need of some serious TLC. But it was there. And the funny thing is, I hadn't thought about that pen or what it had meant to me for so long. But as I held it in my hand, it was as if only a heartbeat had passed. I was reminded of how it felt to know the true value of a pure and unconditional love. I still have that pen to this day. And although I may never actually use it again, I keep it close to me. Because it's become an allegory for my heart. Like all good fountain pens, it's well worn. And it has seen some rough treatment from reckless youth. It had seen times when it was set aside for the sake of marital harmony or convenience. It felt neglected and abandoned during the darkest times of its existence. And yet somehow, it endured. It remains an artifact of an age before single-serve culture reigned supreme. So in closing, if you're in a relationship, if you're married, if you're in love, or whatever, treat that love and your heart like a good fountain pen. And if it gets dull, take the time to strip away the excess and get back to the point that began your journey together. And if it feels dried out or used up and you think it has nothing left to give, remember that you can always make the decision to return to the inkwell to begin again. You can decide to invest in your pen, or you can throw it away and hope that you find another on sale somewhere. The choice is yours. Thanks for listening, guys. Much love. I'll catch you on the next one. Make today a great day.